Welcome to the Water Polo Champions League Final Four highlight show, where Europe's best clubs compete for the biggest prize in club water polo. Coming up, defending champions Ferencváros pushed to the limit before Barcelona delivered a semi-final drama and booked a stunning place in the men's final. Then, Pro Recco produced an attacking masterclass to overpower Olympiacos and set up a blockbuster title match. And on the women's side, Europe's elite delivered world-class water polo as Olympiacos and Ferencváros joined the battle for continental glory with dramatic semi-final moments, standout individual performances and high-pressure contests deciding who would reach the Champions League final. For a few unforgettable days, Malta became the centre of European club water polo. 4 teams arrived with the same dream, 4 teams carrying different stories, different journeys, but chasing one prize, the title of European champions. And maybe that is what made this Final Four so special. Experience, ambition, unfinished business, and history waiting to be written. 3 former European champions, 2 unbeaten teams still standing, 4 clubs who had already proved they belonged on the biggest stage. But by the end of the week, only one would stand above the rest. The first chapter brought us a familiar rivalry, Ferencváros against San Andreu. A rematch of last season's semi-final, a match where the Spanish side ended the Fradi's European dream on their way to a first ever Champions League crown. 1 year later, the same stage, the same ambition. For San Andreu, the chance to continue their reign. For Ferencváros, the chance to finally finish unfinished business and bring Hungarian women's club water polo back to the European summit. But the beginning looked painfully familiar for the Fradi. San Andreu came out flying. Led by Elena Ruiz, the defending champions quickly built a 3-goal advantage, just like they did 1 year earlier. Their defence was organised. Martina Terreu was strong between the posts, and for long periods it looked like history might repeat itself. But this time, Ferencváros had a different ending prepared. Slowly, possession by possession, they started fighting their way back. Rita Castelli, Dorothea Siljagi and Eleftheria Plevritou kept the Hungarian hopes alive, but entering the final quarter, San Andreu still had control. 3 goals down, 8 minutes away from elimination, and then the comeback. The Fradi showed the mentality of a team that refused to let another opportunity disappear. Plevritou delivered when they needed her most. Noah de Vries found the equaliser inside the final minute, and after 32 minutes, nothing could separate them. The first finalist would be decided from 5 metres. And there, Alexandra Kiss became the hero. Brought into the shootout, the Hungarian goalkeeper produced the decisive save before Dora Limeta scored the penalty that sent Ferencváros into history. A 15-14 victory. And for the first time ever, FTC were heading to the Women's Champions League final. The second semi-final was another story of ambition against experience. Mataro arrived in Malta with a perfect European record. 10 matches, 10 victories. Spanish champions, unbeaten and searching for the European crown that had escaped them by only 1 goal in 2023. But standing in their way was a club that knows its competition perhaps better than anyone. Olympiacos. Three-time champions, regular visitors to the biggest stage. A team chasing another chapter in their incredible European story. And from the beginning, both teams delivered. The opening minutes became a battle of attacking quality. Goal after goal, answer after answer. Mataro's international stars showed exactly why they'd been perfect all season. But Olympiacos had weapons everywhere. Abby Andrews, Fontini Trisha, Irini Nenu, Vasiliki Plevritu. The turning point came before half-time. With the match level at 7-7, Olympiacos produced the first decisive run of the night. 3 unanswered goals, a defensive adjustment, and suddenly the Greek side had control. Mataro tried to fight back. Jules Roma and Tilly Kearns kept pushing, but goalkeeper Iona Stamatopoulou delivered one of the biggest moments of the match, denying a crucial penalty in the 4th quarter. And when Trisha scored after collecting her own rebound, the final step was made. Olympiacos defeated Mataro 14-12. For the 6th time in 9 seasons, they were back in the Champions League final. The opening semi-final of the Water Polo Champions League Final Four delivered elite European water polo at its very best. Tactical discipline, momentum swings, and a dramatic finish as Barcelona eliminated defending champions Ferencváros 13-11 on penalties after a 9-9 draw. The first key action arrived inside the opening 3 minutes. Barcelona earned an early man up and Alessandro Vellotto converted for 1-0 Barcelona. It immediately set the tone. Patient Spanish attack and outstanding defensive organisation. Ferencváros responded through Fekete late in the quarter to level at 1-1. But Barcelona closed stronger and moved ahead again to finish the first period, leading 3-2. The second quarter became the decisive phase of regulation. With the score at 3-2, Barcelona produced a game-changing sequence. Unai Biel pushed the Hungarian defence during extra man-off offence for 4-2, then added another long-range finish to make it 5-3. Moments later, Barcelona stretched the lead to 6-3 and completely controlled the tempo. Ferencváros finally stopped the run before half-time, but Barcelona still entered the break in command at 6-3. The defending champions had been limited offensively and struggled to break through Unai Aguirre in goal. Then came the Ferencváros response. Early in the 3rd quarter, the Hungarians increased defensive pressure and found faster transitions. They reduced the deficit to 6-4, then 6-5. Before Barcelona answered to restore a breathing room at 7-6, but the momentum had changed. The 4th quarter delivered pure semi-final drama. Ferencváros equalised at 7-7, then for the first time took the lead at 8-7, their biggest moment of the match. Barcelona answered immediately and restored parity at 8-8. But Ferencváros struck again and with only minutes remaining moved in front 9-8. At that moment, the defending champions were less than a minute from a 3rd consecutive final appearance. Then came the defining action of the game. With 35 seconds remaining, Barcelona circulated possession patiently before finding Alessandro Vellotto. The Italian finished clinically for his 4th goal of the evening and tied the game at 9-9. Game on, penalty shootout. In the shootout, Barcelona were perfect. Manhurts opened scoring for Ferencváros, 0-1. Sana Uzha answered, 1-1. Mandic hit the post. Echenique converted, 2-1 Barcelona. Then came another huge moment, Iguerre save from Fekete. Unai Biel made it 3-1. Vamos kept Ferencváros alive at 3-2, but Fouls scored the final penalty for 4-2 in the shootout and sent Barcelona into their first Champions League final since 2014. The second semi-final of the Water Polo Champions League Final Four was expected to be balanced, but Pro Recco turned it into an attacking masterclass. The Italians defeated Olympiacos 19-13 and advanced to the final after producing the highest scoring output ever recorded in a Champions League semi-final. The match exploded immediately. Inside the opening attacks, Pro Recco struck twice to build a 2-0 lead and establish complete control. Olympiacos answered through Gergo Zelanki, who reduced it to 2-1, but Recco never allowed momentum to change. The first defining moment came midway through the opening quarter. After Ioannis Alafragis made it 4-2, Recco responded instantly. Giacomo Cannella scored to restore a 3-goal margin at 5-2. And seconds later, Gergo Zelanki answered again for 5-3 to keep Olympiacos alive. Then came the sequence that broke the semi-final open. With momentum building, Francesco De Fulvio converted for 6-3 before Giacomo Cannella finished a crucial double man-up attack for 7-3, arguably the turning point of the entire game. Olympiacos immediately responded through Gergo Zelanki for 7-4, but with only seconds left in the quarter, Alvaro Granados struck to make it 8-4 Pro Recco after 8 minutes. 7 different Recco players had already scored. The second quarter removed any doubt. Only 16 seconds after the restart, Max Irving scored for 9-4, killing any chance of an immediate Olympiacos comeback. Ioannis Alafragis answered with a man-up goal for 9-5, but Recco accelerated again. Max Irving scored once more for 10-5. Nikolaos Gikilias briefly reduced the margin to 10-6 before Recco produced another decisive stretch. First, Nicolas Presciuti made it 11-6, then Matteo Ioki Grata extended to 12-6. Olympiacos found life through Alexandros Papanastasio, who scored for 12-7, but the final action of the half belonged to Recco. With 1 minute and 9 seconds remaining before half-time, Max Irving completed his hat-trick for 13-7. The moment the semi-final felt decided. The third quarter opened with one final Greek push. But after an early corner, Recco earned a penalty. Alvaro Granados stepped up and converted for 14-7. Then, after Dimitrios Nikolaidis reduced it to 14-8, Granados delivered again, a powerful effort off the bar for 15-8. Olympiacos couldn't close the gap. The last decisive action came late in the third. After Konstantinos Genadinias scored for 15-9, Max Irving answered immediately with his fourth goal to make it 16-9 entering the final period, ending any realistic comeback hopes. The final quarter became management. Goals from Francesco Condemi, Rino Buric and another from Granados kept Recco comfortably ahead, despite light strikes from Papanastasio, Nikolaidis, Zelanki and Ioannis Fontalis. The final score, Pro Recco 19, Olympiacos 13. Players of the match, Alvaro Granados and Max Irving, 4 goals each. This wasn't simply qualification for the final. It was Pro Recco announcing themselves as favourites in an unforgettable fashion. Before the trophy could be decided, there was one more medal waiting. The Spanish derby. San Andreu against Mataró. The same opponents who had recently battled for the Spanish championship. Only this time, the prize was European bronze. And for the first time in 5 years, no Spanish team would play for the Champions League title, but both wanted to prove they still belonged amongst Europe's elite. Mataró started better. San Andreu responded. And once again, these two teams showed just how small the margins are at this level. Nona Perez, Ruben Yuta and Elena Ruiz pushed San Andreu ahead, while June Ruma and Tilly Kearns kept Mataró alive. With the score tied at 9-9 in the final minutes, the match was waiting for someone to step forward. And that someone was Elena Ruiz. The precise finish on the extra player gave San Andreu the advantage before Karel Anton sealed the deal. 11-9. Another Champions League medal for San Andreu and yet another bronze. 3 consecutive seasons, 3 European podium finishes, with the most historic one, of course, coming last year when San Andreu completed their unforgettable run to glory and lifted the Champions League trophy for the very first time. Even though major changes await the team ahead of next season, with several departures and many questions about what comes next, everything they have achieved so far deserves nothing but respect and recognition. And then came the final. Olympiacos against Ferencváros. A team chasing a 4th European crown against a team chasing history. Experience against ambition. Tradition against opportunity. And from the very first whistle, Olympiacos looked ready for the moment. Abby Andrews and Christina Ciotti opened with brilliant goals from distance before Vasiliki Plevritou and Fortini Trisha helped create a 4-1 lead. But if there was one thing Ferencváros had already shown in Malta, it was that they never disappear. Greta Gurisati started leading the comeback. FTC stayed close. And although Stamatopoulou produced save after save, already reaching 9 by half-time, the Hungarian side kept believing. The third quarter changed everything. Gurisati caught fire. FTC erased a 3-goal deficit in less than 2 minutes. And suddenly, the team playing their first Champions League final had taken control. Gurisati's spectacular lob from almost the sideline gave Ferencváros the lead heading into the last quarter. When she scored her 7th goal of the night, and FTC later moved 2 goals ahead with just over 3 minutes remaining. History was close, but Olympiacos showed why they have been one of Europe's defining teams for a decade. Andrews, the MVP of this season's Final Four tournament, scored her 5th goal. Stefania Santa appeared at the post with just seconds remaining. 14-14. Another final, another shootout. And then came the coaching decision that changed everything. Britt van den Dobbelstein, the reserve goalkeeper waiting on the bench through the semi-final and the final, entered for penalties. A specialist role she knows well, and she delivered one of the great Champions League moments. One save, then another. Then another. 3 consecutive penalty stops. The Brit wall. And when Ciotti converted the final shot, Olympiacos were champions of Europe again. 17-14 after penalties. A 4th Champions League title. A perfect season completed. Greek champions, Greek Cup winners, European champions. The team that knew this stage better than anyone proved exactly why. In Malta, 4 teams came searching for history, but in the end, history belonged to Olympiacos.
The winners of the European Aquatics Champions League Women 2026, Olympiacos!
European Club Water Polo saved its biggest performance for the biggest night. The Men's Water Polo Champions League final in Malta delivered the highest scoring final of the modern era. And after a breathtaking battle, Barcelona defeated Pro Recco 17-16 to become European champions for the second time in club history. It was a final between Europe's most successful modern club and Europe's most complete team of the season. And from the very first possession, the intensity was extraordinary. Only 24 seconds into the match, goalkeeper Unai Eguerre produced his first major save of the evening, denying former teammate Luke Pavillard. Seconds later, he stopped Francesco De Fulvio again. Those actions didn't change the score, but they changed the emotion of the final. Barcelona immediately settled and struck first. Bernard Sanausa opened scoring for 1-0. The first quarter became a showcase of elite attacking quality and finished completely open. But then Recco began to look like Recco. Early in the second quarter, the Italians produced their first decisive run. For the first time, Barcelona looked stretched defensively. Recco's ball speed increased, centre play improved, and suddenly the favourites had momentum. When De Fulvio scored again to make it 8-6, the final looked ready to move in an Italian direction. But champions are built in difficult moments. Instead of forcing attacks, Barcelona stayed patient, 8-7. 3 goals in succession, 3 completely different types of attack. And the rhythm of the final changed again. Recco responded through Granados, but Barcelona reached half-time fully alive and emotionally in control. The third quarter became the turning point. Every Recco goal was answered. Barcelona refused to allow momentum to stay with the Italians. The final entered the closing quarter, separated by almost nothing. And then came the moment that won Europe. Inside the last minutes, every possession mattered. Recco attacked knowing 1 goal could change history. But Barcelona found one final response. Recco answered immediately and closed to 1. Now only seconds remained. 1 final Italian possession, 1 final chance. Then Bustos stepped into the passing lane and produced the steal of the season. No shot, no dramatic equaliser. Barcelona controlled the remaining seconds and the clock expired. History completed. The final score, Barcelona 17, Pro Recco 16. The highest scoring Champions League final in a single match era and a second European crown for the Spanish champions. The final MVP, Alberto Munariz. A final filled with goals, a goalkeeper who changed momentum, a captain who led from the front, and Barcelona back on top of Europe. And that brings us to the end of an unforgettable Water Polo Champions League Final Four. Over one extraordinary weekend, we saw champions fall, new stories written, and Europe's best clubs deliver moments that will be remembered long after the final whistle. From semi-final drama to spectacular goals and 2 new continental champions crowned, this was water polo at its highest level. Thank you for joining us. Until next season, from all of us, goodbye and congratulations to our Water Polo Champions League winners.